Today we're going to be taking notes and color coding these notes on how to create a tape diagram to represent ratios. This skill is super important to understand how ratios work, and it is something that is required of us in this unit. So number one, first thing we're always going to do is read the entire problem. So this is the problem we're working with today. When I write an ELA test, I like to use a ratio of 3 to 7 questions that are essay to multiple choice. If one of my tests had 9 essay questions on it, how many questions were multiple choice? That's going to be our first item that we're going to answer, and then I notice there's more, and I have a second question: how many questions were on the total test? Okay. Now that I know what the context of my problem is, I can go up to step 2, which says rewrite the question in sentence form, leaving a space for the answer. We're going to highlight this step, step 2, in blue. This is a crucial part of our process because it's going to determine what's important and set our purpose for completing the work. So it's really important that we are able to pull out what exactly is the question asking us. We can get that from right here in the problem when it says how many questions were multiple choice. That's the first thing I need to answer. So the way I restate that is just as if I was going to answer it. How many questions were multiple choice? I would say there were, and then I would leave a blank, multiple choice questions. And I'm going to highlight that blue so we can see all of these go together. So now I know that I'm looking for how many were multiple choice, and when I get my answer, I'll be able to plug it in and give it some context to make sure that it makes sense. Now we're ready for step 2, or 3. Determine who or what is involved in the problem. The who or what. This becomes our labels for our tape diagram. So if we reread the problem and figure out what is the ratio about, that gives us the 2 important pieces to create the tape diagram from. In this case, the ratio of 3 to 7 is describing what? It's describing questions that are essay or multiple choice. So now I can write essay and multiple choice, and I have my label in the context of my problem. For step 4, this is where we want to draw our unit bars. Our unit bars come from our original ratio, and in this case, our original ratio is 3 to 7. Remember that ratios are made up of equal parts, so when we make our bars, we want them to be equal parts. So the essay is first, so that goes with 3, which means I would need 3 unit bars. And then multiple choice is second, so that means it correlates to 7. Remember, you want these to be the same, because if there were 3 parts to 3 parts, they would be completely equal. But multiple choice has 7, so I'm going to extend that and put 4 more boxes there. So this is how we get our unit boxes, and you want to make sure they're about equal because ratios are made up of equal parts. It's just essay gets 3 parts and multiple choice gets more parts. This visual helps me to see that if there were 9 essay questions, I know there needs to be more multiple choice. I can be more specific, and I see there's a group of 3 here and a group of 3 here plus 1 more box, so I can estimate that my answer needs to be a little bit more than double 9. So again, those are all ways to help me add context to my problem and make sure that it's making sense. Step 5 is apply the additional information from the problem to the tape diagram. What else did they tell us about this ratio? They told us that one of my tests had 9 essay questions on it. So I'm going to apply that to the essay row. So that means that this essay tape diagram equals 9. And now I'm ready to do the work. So if this equals 9, that tells me that these 3 boxes together have to equal 9. Since they're all equal, that tells me I need to divide 9 equally between the 3 boxes. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So if I have 3 in here, that's 3, 6, 9. That tells me that I am correct. Well, since these are ratios made up of equal parts, if this is 3, then this has to be 3, and this has to be 3, and this has to be 3. So since I know all of these boxes have to be 3, I now know that this has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 groups of 3, which means my multiple choice is 21 questions long. So there were blank multiple choice questions. I can go down here, multiple choice, 21. Again, thinking about what we said earlier, where this needs to be a little bit more than double. 18 would be double, 21's a little bit more than that, so it does make sense. In this question, we have an additional question to answer. How many questions were on the total test? Again, these tape diagrams help us to see the total items as well. Because the test is made up of essay questions and multiple choice, I can get the total by combining all of them together, which means 9 plus 21 equals 30 total questions. So again, going step by step really adds a lot of meaning to the problems. It gives you the visual for it. It helps you to understand the different parts of the ratio and how to apply the information that is given to you. Let's try this one down here on your own and then come back to see if you did it like I did. Press pause until you have all of your steps completed and check in to see if you did it the way I did. Okay, if you are back, you are either stuck or you have completed the problem. So here is how I completed this problem. First thing I did was I found my question. After I read the entire problem, I found my question. How many items were cakes? I restated that for my answer to say there were blank cakes. Then I looked back, what are we comparing in our ratio? In this case, we're comparing cakes and cupcakes. So I put my labels over here. I then created my unit bars from my original ratio, 4 to 7. So there's 4 boxes for cakes, 7 boxes for cupcakes. And then I added the other piece of information the problem gave me. In this case, it was a little tricky. They told us there were 33 total items. So that means that all of these units together equaled 33. So when I knew all of these together equaled 33, and I know each of these have to be the same thing, I know I needed to divide 33 evenly between all 11 total boxes. So 33 divided by 11 means there's 3 in each box. So if there's 3 in each box, that means that there were 4 groups of 3 for cakes, which gives me a total of 12 cakes, and 7 groups of 3 for cupcakes, which gives me 21 cupcakes. When I look back at what I need to answer, I knew there were blank cakes, so I go to my cake row and I plug in 12. Again, I can check my work to make sure that 12 plus 21 does indeed equal 33, and I can see that there should be more cupcakes than cakes, and it all goes together and makes sense. That is how to create tape diagrams using the steps.